Being the son of Shikamaru and Temari comes with some really high expectations. Your father is the 8th of the Hokage and arguably the smartest person in the Hidden Leaf Village. Your mother is practically royalty in the Hidden Sand Village and is arguably the smartest person from her village. Let's not even mention the fact that your grandfather was once the Kazekage and your uncle is currently the Kazekage of the Sand Village. For Shikadai Nara, there's a whole lot of pressure to live up to. So many people expect so many great things from his character. However, just how strong is Shikadai Nara? Well, in this installment of the True Power series, the Boruto Generation Edition, I'm going to go over the true power of Shikadai. For those of you who are new to the True Power series or new to the channel, this is a series on the channel where we take a look at the true range of abilities of Naruto characters. There won't be any fancy number calculations or scaling going on. Like I've said more than once, there's a lot of channels that present that information, and I think that this is why this series is so interesting, because it tackles these subjects from a different perspective than what you're getting. Now, getting back to the true power of Shikadai Nara, this is going to be a pretty significant update on the video that I did on my original channel, Kryptonian Saiyan, before it wrongfully got taken down by YouTube and was recently restored. The only thing that hasn't changed is the fact that Shikadai has some mastery of a wind release, which at the time of that video, I caught a lot of heat for reporting it, since the anime took over a year to display the wind release jutsu that I mentioned in that video. Despite only being 12 and still being pretty wet behind the ears as far as mission experience goes, Shikadai is well on his way to surpassing both of his parents in my opinion, and you guys are about to see why. Even before he was made a Genin, according to the Boruto movie data book, which is the 8th and final supplemental guidebook by the series creator Masashi Kishimoto, according to that guidebook, Shikadai had already been considered not just a prodigy, but the prodigy of his clan, and it's for a really good reason as well. While Shikamaru managed to hone his son's mind, Temari also took time to train Shikadai while Shikamaru was working in the Hokage office. But there was also one other shinobi who took great interest in Shikadai's training. This is the daughter of Asuma, Mirai Sarutobi. By now, you guys should have already seen the anime adaptation for the Konoha Shinden novel, so you guys have seen that Mirai has a pretty decent amount of skill as a ninja, enough so that she's one of the bodyguards for Naruto. At the end of this video, I'll leave the true power of Mirai Sarutobi linked, where I go in depth about the skills of Mirai Sarutobi, which is going to be a lot different than what you guys have seen in the anime. So what exactly did Mirai do for Shikadai? Well, her purpose during his academy years was to train Shikadai in all of the jutsu and tactics that she was trained by Shikamaru when Shikamaru served as her sensei, as shown in the Konoha Shinden novel. Now, in particular, she trained Shikadai in Yin release, which, for those of you who might have forgotten, is basically what Genjutsu is rooted in. To be trained by two geniuses, one of whom is the daughter of a former Kage, and to have a bodyguard who is the bodyguard of the 7th Hokage take time to train you, and she also happens to be the granddaughter of the 3rd Hokage, is a really big deal. It shows that even before he became a Genin, Shikadai was already on the radar of a few people. It would also explain in great detail of why in both the movie version and in the anime version of the Chunin exams, that not only did Shikadai perform so well, but he was many steps ahead of all of his peers and was seen as a gem for the Hidden Leaf Village. To add further context to what I'm saying, if we go by the light novel version of the Boruto movie, Kodachi, the writer for the Boruto anime and manga, specifically wrote that Shikadai was well beyond the greatest Genin in the Cloud Village, Yuri, which is the same ninja that Boruto beat using the shuriken jutsu via the ninja tools. In the anime, Shikadai not only managed to take down Yodo, who was implied to be one of the Sand Village's best Genin, then let's not even forget how easily he outmaneuvered Boruto in their match, who, despite the many fans who hate Boruto as a character, is still a genius who had enough skill that Kakashi stated as a academy student he already had more skill than some Chunin. Before we get into the arsenal of jutsu that Shikadai has, I really want to put emphasis on how much of a weapon his mind is. What I'm about to share with you all is another sign that Shikadai is the son of two genius ninja. In the novelization for the Boruto movie, which was released alongside the Boruto movie back in 2015, 2015, before both the Boruto manga and anime, it was written that Shikadai already had over 12 counter plans in case Boruto knew the Rasengan and used it in battle. Several years later, when the anime gave us the Mitsuki retrieval arc, we see that Shikadai is taken aback by Boruto's Rasengan, which is a bit of a retcon, but it's one that we can live with. After all, even after seeing it being used, his mind was already racing on what the jutsu was and how exactly to counter it. We've seen in Naruto before how quick deduction and logical reasoning can swing the tide of battle very quickly. Itachi, as an Edo Tensei at less than full power, was able to break down Nagato's jutsu in real time and come up with countermeasures to all of Nagato's attacks, all while keeping a calm head and keeping Naruto and Killer Bee from freaking out. While Shikadai isn't a genius on the level of Itachi, it should be worth noting that Temari and Shikamaru will continue to mentor him, which eventually does mean that his genius is going to surpass that of Itachi. Part of what makes his mind so deadly is how he's already aware of what Tsunade took a pretty decent length of time to teach Sakura. Shikadai knows that by watching even the slightest movements of his target, that it can reveal everything he needs to know about them, and it also allows him to plan ahead. Like Tsunade stated, as a ninja moves up in rank, they learn how to hide a lot of their giveaways, but they're still noticeable to a very trained eye, which is what allows Sakura to have some semblance of an edge in her fight against Sasori. This would also explain why during his fight with Boruto, that Shikadai was able to not only not get overwhelmed by the Shadow Clone Jutsu, but he was also able to adjust his plans as needed, despite Boruto using so many different diversion tactics. Being able to see the patterns behind the patterns and all the flashy jutsu is quite the skill, especially for a 12-year-old Genin, which really makes you wonder just what his ceiling's gonna be as he gets older. Even before he entered into the academy, Shikadai was trained in shuriken jutsu, being well advanced for his age, and was also taught ceiling jutsu. Like I stated in the video I did on my old channel, Shikadai can also use Temari's signature wind release jutsu that she uses with her fan, the wind scythe jutsu, which was given to us in the character profile of Boruto Volume 2, where you see Shikadai's jutsu being listed out. By the events of the Genin graduation exam, Shikadai had grown so proficient with the ceiling jutsu and mastery of the wind possession jutsu that he could expand his shadows in conjunction with those of the people who are around him. Some of this likely could be traced back to Mirai taking the time to specifically train Shikadai in yin release jutsu. While yin release is mainly associated with genjutsu, it's also a key component of the Nara clan's secret hidden jutsu, the shadow paralysis jutsu. Recently on Twitter, I've had a few of you guys ask me publicly or via DM that you were confused about the difference between yin and yang release and you wanted me to make a video for it. So I'm gonna say this here now. If you guys want, I can make a Naruto to go video, which is a series where I break down different Naruto topics in 3 to 6 minutes, if that's something you guys want. The shadow possession jutsu, as we all know, is the staple of the Nara clan, and like mentioned before, is rooted in yin release. Despite what a lot of fans seem to believe, the shadow possession jutsu can't be used in straight darkness. That was something that the Shikamaru Hida novel went out of its way on quite a few instances to drill into our head. Basically, this jutsu is the manipulation of shadows. It starts out with Shikadai manipulating his own shadow and merging it into the surface area around him, which then allows him to sync it with his enemy or some other object that's nearby. The main drawback is that Shikadai is limited to the surface area of whatever target he selected. However, on the flip side, Shikadai can use the shadow of his enemy to extend the range of his own shadow. If the user is bloodlusted, the jutsu can become really scary in battle, since Shikadai can have his target throw away whatever weapons they have and then throw a shuriken or a sword at a vital spark, killing the target or forcing the target to kill their enemy, who Shikadai could have trapped, which is exactly what Shikamaru tried to do in the Akatsuki suppression arc when he took control of Hidan's body and used Hidan to attack Kakuzu. With that being said, there is another drawback to this. This jutsu does require a pretty significant amount of chakra to use, especially when keeping the target restrained, which is why until stamina is built up, it's not a jutsu that can be spammed for long periods of time. The Shadow Strangle jutsu is a more advanced version of the Shadow Possession jutsu. Basically, this jutsu is meant for stealth killing. After syncing his target with the shadow, the user restrains the target, and then as the chakra becomes denser, the target begins to feel the pressure of the strangle jutsu on their skin. As the user moves closer to the target, the stronger the binding effect becomes. The binding force is also applied and often applied to the neck of the target, which, as the name implies, allows them to strangle the target. Now, the Shadow Imitation Field Jutsu is Shikadai's most impressive variation of the Shadow Possession Jutsu. Shikadai was able to create this jutsu during his training with Tamari, who, according to the novelization of the Boruto movie, had already broken down all the limitations of the Nara clan's secret jutsu, the Shadow Possession Jutsu, and Tamari was so dead set on making her son advance the clan jutsu by making it powerful that it was something that she trained specifically with Shikadai in order to do. Basically, this jutsu expands the range of Shikadai's shadow in all directions, expanding the range well beyond that of a normal Shadow Possession Jutsu. While it consumes a lot more chakra than a normal Shadow Possession Jutsu, if it's used at the right time, it can be a jutsu that ends a battle in an instant, capturing any enemy in the immediate vicinity of the jutsu, regardless of their position on the battlefield, as long as they're within Shikadai's range. Light String Formation is an advanced sealing jutsu that is used to produce a barrier that keeps the enemy from leaving. The barrier is created underneath the foot of the user, and anyone who's caught in the jutsu sealing formula is unable to leave. This isn't some pushover jutsu, mind you. It took Naruto entering into his Nine Tails chakra mode in order to break free of this jutsu. For someone like Shikadai to have mastered jutsu like this before taking his academy graduation exam is really impressive, which is likely another nod to him being trained by Shikamaru, Tamari, and Mirai Sarutobi. Speaking of Tamari, her teaching him the Wind Scythe jutsu is going to be really huge in the future of the series, especially if Shikadai can use this jutsu without a fan, which I do believe he can do. This jutsu creates several strong currents of wind that creates a vacuum pocket that is pretty hard to escape from. It then produces wind blades that slice up whoever's caught inside of it. Now, before anyone says you need Tamari's fan in order to use this jutsu, I like to point out to you guys that we've seen this in the Boruto anime already, that using the hand seals of the snake, the dragon, and the bird, we've actually seen somebody use this jutsu and not have the fan nearby. Finally, the wind style air current jutsu is another jutsu that Shikadai was taught by Tamari during their training. Shikadai molds wind chakra in his hands, and as the chakra is molded into his palms, he's able to control the air currents around him. When he uses this jutsu, he shoots out a gust of wind so he can manipulate it. What I find most fascinating about Shikadai's arsenal of jutsu is that when you really sit down and think about it, his jutsu really complements each other. I won't be shocked if we see him combining wind release jutsu with his Shadow Possession jutsu in battle, which could make him a seriously frightening person to fight if Shikadai was to come across somebody. So what did you guys think about Shikadai's true power, and where would you rank him against his peers? As always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.